Okay, I'm going to chat today about X-Men First Class. It's a 2011 superhero movie from, well, Marvel Comics originally. It's directed by Matthew Vaughn, if I remember correctly. Yep, Matthew Vaughn. And luckily was produced by Bryan Singer, the man who brought about X-Men 1 and X-Men 2, X-Men United. The film follows the story of Charles Xavier and his childhood friend Raven, or Mystique as we all know her, leaving Oxford University as a student studying mutation and evolution to join the CIA in America in helping them figure out what to do with the Hellfire Club, a group led by Sebastian Shaw, who are trying to basically start an arms race between Russia and the US. Did I say arms race? I think I meant the Cuban Missile Crisis. You know what, my history's terrible, but yeah. Also, back in Germany, back in there, in the sequence that opens the original film, X-Men, we find out what happened to young Eric Lencher, the boy who grows up to be Magneto, and how he spent most of his earlier years in a quest for revenge against Sebastian Shaw himself for murdering his parents. Throughout the duration of the film, the question of whether or not being a mutant is wrong or something to be feared or worried about is addressed many times in brilliant fashion by different characters, and it's interpreted in different ways. It makes this one stand out from the other X-Men movies, mostly because this one really focuses on the emotional side to being a mutant. You get in the head of each of the characters quite simply, whereas that was achieved alright in X-Men 1 with the story of Rogue, and it was achieved okay, I guess, in X2 with how Stryker and the humans were reacting to mutants and what they wanted to do with them, etc. And it's always been addressed properly with Magneto and the Brotherhood, but it was lost majorly in X-Men The Last Stand, really. I mean, even though it was about a cure for the mutant gene, it was more focusing on will I be normal, want to be. It wasn't handled well enough, I don't think. Maybe it was. Maybe I was just distracted by the fact Vinnie Jones was in it as a terrible juggernaut. I'll never be sure. He created an internet meme though from that, so I suppose something good came out of it. Before I get too off topic, I'm going to talk about the film. I loved it, absolutely loved it. One of the screenplay writers was Jane Goldman, who, if Jonathan Ross wasn't married to her, I'd probably take her out for a drink. Just a chat. And yeah, I mean, you can tell that she and Matthew Vaughn are a good team because, of course, they were behind Kick-Ass, which is a kick-ass film. This film is very Batman Begins in the sense that it's almost like a relaunch of the X-Men franchise outright. It has its own tone. Some plot points are actually contradictory to the X-Men series. We'll go into that in a minute. But also because you really start basically with the base character. And I think the main character in the film is Charles Xavier. Eric Lencher, of course, Magneto, is in it a lot, played by Michael Fassbender. Hang on, Michael Fassbender, forget what I said. Played by Michael Fassbender, and James McAvoy plays Charles Xavier. But it's really Charles' story, and the story of the team we all know so well, how that genuinely was founded, like the foundations of that, what they really were. Brilliant performances from the actress who plays Moira McTaggart. Kevin Bacon steals every scene he's in as Sebastian Shaw. Just some brilliant acting. I can't think of anything wrong with the acting at all in this film. My only qualm when watching it was simply the fact that Emma Frost should have been British, Moira McTaggart should have been Scottish, and Michael Fassbender should have decided on an accent for Magneto because he was British and then he was Irish quite a bit and he was occasionally a little bit American. Well, he was travelling around the world assassinating people in the story, so I suppose he could have picked up multiple accents, I'm not sure. Beautiful action sequences. One thing I did like was the fact they didn't focus on mutants we all know. Like, there was no Storm, apart from a very tiny suggested cameo as a child on Cerebro. There was no, Cyclops. There was no Rogue, no Jubilee, no Gambit, none of that. Apart from one bit in the middle, a certain mutant makes a hilarious cameo, and I won't go into it. If you know what it is, feel free to talk about it in the comments down below. If you don't know what it is, don't read the comments down below. So yeah, but that's a very nice surprise and brilliant that the actor would do that. It focuses on mutants we don't necessarily have as much of a recognition with, like Darwin and Havoc and Angel, not male Angel, Lady Angel. Even random villains as well, like Azazel and Riptide. Brilliant. And bringing characters like Emma Frost and Beast finally into the spotlight. Beast, of course, was in X-Men Last Stand, and Emma Frost sort of was in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but it wasn't. I'm going to get on to the continuity errors. This is just a point of interest. The reason X-Men First Class stands out as possibly a separate film is because though if you have, you know, a blurred knowledge of the X-Men films, if you have a blurred knowledge, you just enjoyed them but you don't remember them vividly, you could get away with thinking this is genuinely the first film, like a prequel. But hark, listen to this. Okay, check this out. Like I said, in X-Men First Class, Emma Frost is an adult mutant in 1962, which is when the film is set. But in X-Men Origins Wolverine, a character called Emma, who turns to Diamond, like Emma Frost, is a teenager, and that film's set in 1979, the climactic scenes. Dr. Moira McTaggart, she's sort of in her 30s in this, presumably, late 20s, early 30s. She makes a cameo in The Last Stand, in a couple of scenes, at a very similar age, so once again, contradictory. Beast is shown as a human in X-Men 2 on the televisions as Professor Hank McCoy. And then he's blue and, you know, furry in X-Men 3, X-Men The Last Stand. In this film, he turns blue during the film's events, and this is in the 60s. So again, totally contradicting continuity. Magneto claims to have built and designed his telepathy-blocking helmet in the original X-Men films. He hasn't. He steals it from Sebastian Shaw in this movie. These are just a few of the continuity errors, but I think it's all part of a subtle retcon for the franchise. They're doing a DC Comics, basically, and just deciding, do you know what we told you last time? Forget it, this is what we actually meant. See, some of those errors suggest that X-Men The Last Stand is just plain incorrect, and if you took that out of the equation and just had X-Men, X-Men 2, Wolverine, if you want, and X-Men First Class, you'd have a perfect series. But I've just realised, if Beast appears in human form on the news conference on X-Men 2, that means that one's incorrect. Which sucks majorly, because that's the best X-Men film of them all. Whoa, you're thinking, Chris, you're telling us that X2 is the best X-Men film of them all? What do you think of this one? You clearly don't rate it highly. Well, you'd be wrong, I do. I give X-Men First Class a first class rating of 4 stars. Tremendous film, beautifully acted, brilliantly shot, amazing action sequences. Just so much to love about this movie. It's really geared me up for the rest of this year's superhero offerings. We've already had Thor, which was superb. Captain America is on the way, cannot wait. And I'm even tempted to go and see the Green Lantern, if only just for Ryan Reynolds being cool. So that's it, guys. X-Men First Class, 4 stars. After 8 years being a bit dodgy, the X-Men film franchise is once again brilliant. Till next time, dudes and dudettes. See ya.